Welcome to Chapter 4 of my softball protocol called An Introduction to Footwork. In this video, we'll review the fundamentals of footwork that will ultimately be the bread and butter and the foundation that we build upon for all defensive plays that we use, no matter what position you play on the field. This footwork is applicable to everybody: catchers, pitchers, infielders, and even outfielders. So follow along and let's break down the 3 fundamental steps of fielding: step, pop, and throw. Before we can get into the fun stuff of actually fielding a ball, I think it's really important to first explain why it is I'm teaching the techniques that you'll see in this video. First and foremost, the entire purpose of defense is to prevent the other team from scoring runs. This means that we are trying to get the ball to the base to which the runner is advancing before they can get there themselves. So essentially, this is one giant race. That means on defense, we need pristine footwork to be able to beat the runner to the base with the ball. Our footwork is going to be the foundation from which we build and can improve our skills. I mention footwork so much because it's really what's going to allow us to, 1, get to a ball, make a play on a ball, then carry our momentum forward through the catch or fielding the ball, through our throw, and to our receiver. Without footwork, our throws would be incredibly weak and would make us slow on defense. We need footwork to make sure that we can get to the ball and carry our momentum through the catch and through the throw to make sure we maximize our velocity on the throw. A vast majority of my power when I'm throwing is coming from my lower half. My upper half does not generate nearly the power that my lower half can, so I cannot just rely on my upper body and my arms to increase the velocity of my throw. I really need to make sure I carry my momentum through the catch with good footwork so that I can maximize the velocity I have on my throw. As you've probably noticed, I'm really emphasizing velocity on my throw because this is really going to be the fastest thing that we can leverage to get the ball from where we receive it on the field to our target. And our footwork is going to be the foundation that allows this to happen. One thing we also need to break down before we get into fielding are the differences between baseball and softball. I totally recognize that there are a lot of similarities between both games. Baseball and softball are similar in so many ways, yet vastly different at the same time. Let me give you one example. In softball, our bases are 60 feet apart, whereas in baseball, their bases are 90 feet apart. That means their infield is 150% larger than the infield in softball. What this translates to is a longer home to first time for the base runners, and that means that fielders in baseball have more time to field the ball and get it to first base than we do in softball. In softball, your average home to first time at high Division I levels is going to be around 2.9 to 3 seconds. With the fastest runners, usually these are our slappers, being able to get to first base in 2.7 seconds. In baseball, because they have to run another 30 feet, the average home to first time is more like 4.2 to 4.3 seconds, with the fastest runners getting there in 4 seconds. So the difference between the fastest runners in both sports is 1.3 seconds. Think about maybe the last time you've watched a race, a 100-yard sprint. The difference of 1.3 seconds is huge and is a lot of time in our game, especially when we refer to baseball and softball as games of inches. So for this reason, I see a lot of fielding techniques that I find to be incorrectly extrapolated from baseball to softball because baseball has a little bit more time than softball players do on defense. And so I think it's really important to recognize that the techniques in baseball are amazing for that game, but don't always translate perfectly to our game of softball. In softball, we need to consider that we have a lot less time on defense, and so we really need to optimize our speed and efficiency when we're fielding a ball on defense. A second thing that I would like to note between baseball and softball is that, in general, men are a lot stronger with their upper body, so they can rely a little bit more on their arm strength to increase the velocity of their throw. I personally do not have that same upper body strength, and so I really need to rely a lot more on my lower half to generate power on everything I do in the game. And in this case, let's refer to the throw. This is why my footwork is going to be so important and fundamental to defense, so that I can make sure that my throw is going to have velocity and is going to be accurate, and that I'm not always relying on my arm. Another benefit of having really good footwork is that I don't always have to throw the ball hard. I don't have to wear out my arm trying to throw the ball as hard as I can on every play when my momentum is generating a majority of the velocity for me. Sure, there will be close plays where I'll have to throw the ball as hard as I can with both my lower and upper half, but oftentimes on your average runner, you'll be able to rely solely on your footwork and not have to throw the ball nearly as hard with your arm. All of this talk of the basic theory of defense and the nuances between baseball and softball is really my way of trying to tell you that I really want you to understand why it is I'm teaching the game the way that I am, and why it may be different from something that you have been taught or something you've seen others doing. For me, growing up, it was really important to understand why it was that I was doing something. This helped me not only remember what I needed to be doing, but also pushed me to think about and analyze the game a little bit more so that I had a better understanding of where I was and what I was doing at all times. Ultimately, I think it's a great skill to be able to digest information, think about why it is someone is saying that, and then go ahead and act on that by deciding whether or not it's best for you and your game and whether that fits with what you're doing. Enough about the nuances now between baseball and softball. Let's get started on the 3 basic steps of fielding. It's time to break down the 3 fundamental steps of fielding. We'll start with how to receive a ball that's coming at you straight on and out of the air. The 3 steps of fielding are step, pop, and throw. To begin, we start in our ready position and we step. Notice from the ground up, my toes are pointed straight to my target, my back knee is slightly bent, and my left knee is slightly bent. I took a fairly big step to get my momentum started going towards the catch. Now look at my upper half. My shoulders are square to my catch and my fingertips are up with my throwing hand next to the glove, ready for the transfer. The next step is pop. During this step, 2 things happened. First, with my lower half, my throwing side leg is pointed at a 45-degree angle to my target where I'm throwing, which is straight ahead. My ankle bone is pointed to my target on the inside of my foot. Also notice how I stayed low and my knees are still bent in this position. Now focus on my upper half. Because I'm an infielder, I point my elbow to my target. Outfielders point their gloves. And I've transferred the ball during this step and I'm ready to throw. Because the last step of fielding is now step and throw off your glove side foot and follow through with your back foot. Let's go through a little bit slower and break down each step further. The first step is step to catch. My glove side foot is always the foot that I step to catch with, and the goal is for this foot to land at the same time that I catch the ball. The next step is pop, where I bring my back foot forward and transfer the ball at the same time. Some big mistakes with the pop step are that players either replace their feet or they go behind. Look what happened when I went behind. My hips are now pointed away from my target and my momentum is now going this way towards where my back foot was taking me. So when we pop in front of our glove side foot and move forward to gain ground to our target. We want to take a step anytime we have the ball, just like a runner is taking a step to first base. After all, it is a race, so anytime we have the ball in our hand, we need to be moving through and carrying our momentum towards our target to beat the runner there. So after I step, pop, now I step and throw off my glove side foot and always follow through with my back foot. What this looks like full speed is this: step, pop, throw. Notice how I always had momentum moving through the catch. This is the most important thing that we can do on defense, so it's very important to take the time to master this. When I was first taught this drill, my whole team would be lined up on a baseline like this, and we would get in our ready position and our coach would say step, and we would all check to make sure we were in the correct position like this. Then it was pop, and we would all check to make sure we were like this, and then it was throw, and we would all check to make sure that we threw the ball off our glove side foot and our back foot followed through. Then we would repeat. This defensive progression is something that we practice. We start low, and then we build up to going as fast as we can, and then we add in fielding a ball. One thing you may notice is I have these 3 cones here. Hopefully by now you've noticed that each of these 3 cones represents a step in my fielding. So step, pop, and throw. These are markers of each of my 3 steps, and what these are on the ground to represent is the amount of ground I've gained towards my target during the time that I had the ball. I started in my ready position all the way back here and finished my throw in front of that first orange cone. This is something that we really want to see our defensive players doing, because we do not want to catch the ball in the same place that we start our ready position in, because I just gave up this much ground to going to my target that I allowed the runner to take those 3 extra steps towards first base. Additionally, at any point during this that I don't do a step properly, I lose momentum and therefore velocity on my throw. And I also do not gain any ground or take any time away from the runner as they run to first base. My lefties, I don't want you to feel like you're left out at all. I am, of course, a righty, but I will try and switch my glove to make it look like I'm a lefty to demo the footwork for receiving a ball out of the air. So from my ready position, I step to catch, fingers are up, I take a powerful step forward, I pop and transfer, my throwing side foot lands at a 45-degree angle with my ankle bone pointed to my target, my elbows pointed to my target if I'm an infielder, glove if I'm an outfielder, and then I step, throw, and follow through. Let's review common mistakes players make while doing the 3 steps of our fundamental footwork. We'll start first with the step, or step 1 in our fielding footwork. The first common mistake I see players make is they step with no intent or purpose behind it. It's a very small step that's not really getting us to our catch faster. We want to get to the catch as fast as we can and want to carry momentum forward through the catch. So to do this, our first step needs to be powerful. The second common mistake I see players make is they don't catch the ball out in front. This wastes time if we let the ball travel this far, because if we're moving through our target, notice how I'm coming to where I catch the ball. So the sooner I can get it, the sooner I can transfer as my lower half moves through the catch. Another mistake players make is they try to do this footwork and catch the ball with chicken wings and are stuck on the transfer, or they try to make a basket catch, which may put us at risk for injury. A final common mistake players make on the first step of the fielding footwork is their step to catch is mistimed. We want to have our glove side foot landing at the time we catch the ball. If our foot lands early, we're losing momentum because we can't move forward until we have the ball, so our throw is going to be weaker. If our step is late, we've missed an opportunity to be faster. We cannot be late to the catch because that means we're then slow through the rest of the steps. So it's really important to make sure that you properly time the catch to be as optimal and efficient as possible. The next set of common mistakes players make while fielding a ball on defense occurs with the pop step. The pop step is very important because this is really where we're going to get the most power on our throw from by pushing off with our back leg. So if you recall, I step to catch and I pop. My back leg here really needs to be able to push forward because that's the leg that I'm going to be throwing off of. So having the correct pop step is really what's going to separate the good from the great players. So the first mistake that players make is they step to catch and their pop step goes behind. Notice how my hips are totally off target now, and my momentum is now going in this direction, as opposed to where I want my momentum going, forward to my target. So always make sure you pop in front and not behind. Another mistake players make on the pop step is they replace their feet, or sometimes you may hear this called shuffling or clicking your feet. All of these options cause us to lose momentum because I have to slow down. Think about when you're running. How awkward would it be if you're running and all of a sudden someone told you you had to put your next step right next to the foot that was in front? In order to do this, you would have to really slow down, and so you would be losing momentum on the catch. So if I'm here and I've already been running through the catch, to do this I have to slow down a lot. I don't want to lose any momentum or velocity on my throw if I can help it. So that's why we pop forward and in front. Another problem with replacing or shuffling or clicking your feet, whatever you'd like to call it, is that I gain no ground. So I'm here, and then by replacing, my back foot is in the same place as my front foot. I've lost momentum, and now I have to throw from a step behind where my teammate may have been if they popped in front. This is important because every step the runner takes, we also want to take a step towards our target to get the ball to the base before they get there. Our game is truly a game of inches. A lot of plays come to within less than a step of time. And so it's really important that we do everything we can and control everything that is in our control to make sure we can make the play. One way I see players get themselves in trouble and needing to replace their feet instead of stepping forward and gaining some ground is when they've gotten themselves in a bad position on the step to catch. So usually when I've found myself replacing my feet on the field, my momentum is slowed because I haven't made the catch properly and I had no momentum to begin with. So in this case, sure, you could argue it makes more sense to replace your feet to try and get the ball out a little quicker since you're saving time from your foot going here instead of here. However, when I'm in a situation where I properly catch the ball, have my momentum going forward, it's much more natural and efficient to carry my pop step forward, continue gaining ground, and retain all the velocity I possibly can on the throw. Now that we've reviewed mistakes players make with their lower half during the pop step of our fielding footwork, let's review what can happen with our upper half. So during the pop, I transfer the ball, and I take the ball straight from the catch to my throwing side ear during the pop step. This is the most efficient thing that we can do. The fastest distance between 2 points is a straight line, as we know. So mistakes happen anytime we divert from this path. Sometimes you'll see players catch the ball, and on the pop step, they'll drop the glove to their stomach or below their chest and just not take the ball straight back to their ear. Other things that can happen is players are not strong on the catch and let the velocity of the throw take them back. This not only slows momentum, but makes for a slow transfer. This is a really small, minute detail, but is something that makes a huge difference in how efficient you are on defense. Finally, let's go over the mistake players make when they throw in the fielding footwork. So players often properly step to catch, pop, and are now ready to throw, but stop and don't bring their back leg through. This is a lot of momentum loss when we don't follow through with our back leg through the throw. So anytime you're doing the footwork, always make sure that you're including that back leg follow through on the throw step. So far, we've reviewed how to properly receive a ball and do the footwork and throw from a ball that's coming to us straight on and one that we're then throwing straight back to the same target. However, a couple things can happen here. First and foremost, it being a bad throw. Right now, when I'm referring to a bad throw, I mean a throw that's coming over one of these two cones. So a bad throw over to my glove side or a bad throw over to my throwing hand side. If you were paying close attention earlier, you know that we step to catch and our foot lands at the same time we're catching the ball. Notice here how I'm catching the ball in between my shoulders. If I accidentally step early and don't step to the ball, I might end up catching the ball with my arm straight out to try and catch that ball. This is a problem because I'm weak here and the ball's likely to take my glove back, so I lose a lot of momentum. And so to fix this, we wait until we see the flight path of the ball, which means we wait to see when the player releases the ball where the ball is going. So once I see this and I time my step to catch properly, I step to where that ball is going. And notice how now my glove is in between my shoulders, so I'm in a good position to then pop to my target and then step and throw. The same thing is going to be true for the bad throw to my right here. So instead of stepping straight forward early and being in an awkward position here, I want to step to where the ball's going, catch in between my shoulders, pop, and then throw to my target. If you take the time to really understand why you're stepping to the ball, whether it's straight on, whether it's a bad throw, you'll have so many more opportunities to make plays on the field and be efficient with your fielding and footwork. Let's now review the fundamental footwork of fielding a ground ball. I'm sure you've guessed it by now, there's 3 steps to fielding a ground ball: step, pop, and throw. Instead of doing this footwork out of the air, we're going to, of course, be fielding a ball that's on the ground. So this should look very similar to what we've already covered today, but there's a couple nuances that I need to discuss. So in the first step, after we're in our ready position, I step to catch. Notice how my glove went straight to the ground. There was no presenting my glove or flipping the glove or hitting my glove and then going to the ground. I want to be as efficient as possible in my glove to the ground. Also notice my throwing hand here is right next to my glove so that I'm ready to transfer. I don't teach the gator catch because in the event of a bad hop, your fingers are going to be right in the way and could get hurt. So we always want to avoid any kind of injury when possible, so keep that hand to the side of the glove on the catch. Also notice when I step to catch where I'm fielding the ball. I field the ball out in front of my glove side foot with my glove at a 45-degree angle on the ground. It's not flat because the ball is going to hit the front of my glove, and it's not up here because this is slow. I can't push through the catch. I'm an infielder, so I catch inside my glove side foot. Outfielders catch outside their glove side foot. The next step in our throwing progression is pop. So after I've stepped to catch, I'm ready to transfer and pop. Notice what happened when I did that. After I step to catch and I pop, I push through the catch and bring the glove up to my throwing side shoulder, and I've made my transfer. All while popping just like I did before, with my foot at a 45-degree angle to my target and my inside ankle bone pointed to my target. I'm in a good position to throw with my elbow for infielders or glove for outfielders pointed to my target, ready to throw. One final thing to notice is how low I stayed on the pop step. So step to catch, pop, I'm still low. I didn't stand up. Standing up causes us to lose momentum, but also takes more time. We always want to be efficient, so stay low when you're moving through your catch. The final step of the footwork, of course, is step to throw. So I step, field my ground ball, pop and transfer, and then step and throw, and always follow through. Just like for receiving a ball out of the air, you notice that I have the 3 cones on the ground here to represent step, pop, and throw. These cones are really good to set out when you're first learning the footwork so that you can see yourself gaining ground every time you do the footwork, no matter if it was a throw in the air or a ground ball. We want to know that we're gaining ground towards our target and taking time away from the runner anytime we're making a play. Let's now put the 3 steps together to field a ground ball. I get my ready position, I step to catch, I pop, I step and throw. This is the way to practice when you're first learning. Break down all 3 steps, and at each step, Pause to check to make sure you're in the right position. So step to catch, pop, step and throw. As you get more comfortable, you start to go a little bit faster. Step to catch, pop, step and throw. And then eventually you'll work your way up to going full speed. So I step, pop, and throw. And at that point, you're ready to start fielding some ground balls. Let's review common mistakes players make when they're fielding a ground ball. The first common mistake I see is players get ready and are charging the ball and bring their glove in or bring their hands together or smack the glove, whatever you may have it, before going straight down to the catch. Anytime I do something like this, it's adding time it takes for me to get from here to the ground. This is just an opportunity to introduce error and be late to the catch. If we can just avoid this from the start by choosing not to flip our glove or not to hit it before we go down for the catch, that's way more efficient and reduces the likelihood that we'll make an error on the catch. Another mistake players make when fielding a ground ball is stepping to catch with their butt in the air instead of being low. When I'm low here, I'm in an athletic position ready to carry my momentum forward, whereas when my butt's in the air, I've lost all my momentum and I'm going to be slow through the rest of the footwork. Another common mistake players make when fielding a ground ball is not catching the ball out in front of their glove side foot, whether it be inside for infielders or outside for outfielders. Players make the mistake of catching the ball back behind them. When we do this, I, one, lose sight of the ball, whether I'm an infielder or an outfielder, I'd have to look behind me. And two, this makes me slow because I'm gonna lose my momentum that's going forward, trying to catch the ball now behind me in an awkward position. Always make sure you're fielding a ball out in front of your glove side foot. The final common mistake I see players make with the first part of fielding a ground ball is catching the ball square-toed. What I mean by square-toed is players are literally square to the catch like this with their left toe and right toe kind of in a parallel line. So they're perpendicular to the catch or square to the ball. So they look like this when they catch the ball. This is a bad position, first of all, because I have no momentum going through the catch. If I'm charging the ball and come up to catch the ball like this, I just lost all the momentum I had. So I can't then go make a nice pop step and carry my momentum forward and have a lot of velocity on my throw. This is usually the position I see players in who then feel the need to replace their feet and make a throw. The big problem with this also is that, as you just noticed, I caught the ball and then now threw the ball from the exact same position. We never want to do this if we can help it, because again, we want to gain ground to our target, to have momentum and more velocity behind our throw, and take time away from the runner. In this position, to replacing my feet, I just gave the runner 2 steps versus me stepping to catch, popping, and throwing. Another issue I see with catching the ball square-toed like this is the hop that I'm getting and having to field off of is no longer my choice. I'm kind of just taking the cards I'm dealt at this point and having to deal with whatever hop I get. Usually it's a good one, but sometimes it's a bad one. Whereas if I have proper footwork and I'm charging the ball, I can take some chop steps and then choose which hop that I want to field. I can do the chop steps and slow down a little before carrying my momentum through the catch if I want to take a later hop. If I want to go attack a ball and get an earlier hop, I can just charge and go right through my fielding footwork. So I think stepping with your glove side foot out in front and fielding the ball out in front of this glove side foot is really advantageous for a number of reasons. Give this a try and let me know what you think. Next, let's review common mistakes players make during the pop step of our fielding footwork. So when you properly field the ball out in front and then pop, my momentum and shoulders and hips are facing to my target. However, I can see players get thrown off when they step to catch and stand up during the pop step. I just lost all my momentum because I took it straight up instead of forward through my catch, and this also took time. It takes time for me to stand up versus me staying low through the footwork. The second common mistake I see players make when receiving a ground ball is where they put their foot during the pop step. So I love to see players catch the ball out in front, but then they'll pop behind. Look at how my shoulders are now pointed to where my hips are and my momentum is now going completely to my left. Versus if I pop in front, all my momentum is still going towards my target. The second way players lose momentum while they're doing the footwork is they replace their feet, shuffle their feet, or click their feet. I've heard it called all three things, but it's essentially the same thing, where they step to catch and replace their feet. This is first of all a missed opportunity to gain ground towards our target because my foot lands here instead of here. Second of all, in order to replace my feet, I have to slow my momentum and therefore lose velocity on my throw, ultimately making my footwork slower. Usually when I've gotten into this position on the field where I end up replacing my feet, it's because I was in a bad position from the step to catch. So I already was low on momentum and felt like I had to just get the ball out as quick as I could and had to really rely on my arm to generate all the power on the throw. So in order to avoid this, really focus on catching the ball out in front of your glove side foot so you can pop forward. Another way that I see players end up having to replace their feet is when they catch square-toed. You have no momentum going forward this way, and so naturally players just kind of replace their feet to get it out quick. This is really why at the beginning of the video I was discussing some of the nuances between baseball and softball, because I feel like this is something that kind of has carried over from baseball to softball, because you see a lot of baseball players catching square-toed and replacing our feet. The problem with doing this in softball is that, as I had mentioned, we have a lot less time to make a play than baseball players do, and so we really need to consider how we need to be more efficient and if that's going to allow us to make more plays. For me, it certainly was more advantageous to focus on the correct footwork to push through the ball for softball. And second of all, baseball players are usually a lot stronger with their upper half, and I just cannot generate the same power they can with my upper half on a throw. I can't rely solely on my arm power to make all these plays. I need to have momentum and power from my lower half in order to be efficient and make these plays. Consider how doing the proper footwork that I'm teaching right now could be advantageous for softball. Another common mistake players make on the pop step of this footwork is they end up sideways. So they step to catch, and instead of popping, see how my hips and shoulders are pointed to my target? They kind of end up sideways. So I'll show you what I mean by this. They step to catch, and they pop this way. So they over-rotate a little, and this causes us to lose a little bit of momentum. This is something that's a minute detail, but can really truly make a difference, especially in our game of inches. We've covered mistakes players make with their lower half during the pop step of fielding a ground ball. Let's now move to the upper half. So when I step to catch, I push through during the pop step and bring the ball straight back to my throwing side ear to be ready for the throw. The straight line from the point of the catch to my ear is the most efficient, as we've already covered. However, where I see players go wrong is they step to catch, and then when they pop and try and move forward, they bring the ball to their stomach. And so they lose, for one, momentum and therefore velocity on the throw. But also, too, this is an inefficient way to transfer because we're diverting from that straight line from the catch to our ear. The final mistake that players make when they're doing the fielding footwork is not following through with the back foot on the throw. I feel like I've reviewed this so many times now, but I can't state the importance of following through with your back foot. So I step to catch, I pop, and if I just stop and throw here, I'm losing all this momentum where I could have this when I follow through with my back leg. So far, we've reviewed the fielding footwork as if we're in our ready position and the very next step we take is to catch the ball out of the air or on the ground. This rarely happens because really truly we never want to catch the ball in the same position that we start in the field. We always want to be taking an angle to a ball or charging the ball when we have the time. It's a very rare occurrence where the ball is hit directly at us so hard that we field in the same position we start in. Let's review how to charge the ball. So when I charge the ball, I literally mean charge the ball and sprint to it. It's not a walk, it's a sprint. The runner is sprinting to first base, I want to be sprinting to the ball. So I want to go charge, step, pop, and throw and have all of that momentum behind my throw. There are times, however, where you may slow the momentum a little before the catch to give yourself time to get set and ready to field. So sometimes, yes, I'm sprinting all the way through these steps, usually when the ball's a slow roller or I'm up against a slapper and really need to be as fast as I can. Other times I have slightly more time, so I'm going to sprint, charge the ball, but then take a couple chop steps before I step, pop, and throw. So yes, the chop steps are slowing my momentum a little bit. However, with my feet still moving, I'm able to then push off and move through the catch. The chop steps are really important in times where we need to time our feet correctly. Sometimes you're running and will notice you're going to end up catching the ball off your throwing side foot, which is not something that we want to do. So the chop step is really necessary to make sure we time our steps correct, but will also eventually help us get the hop that we want. So as you do the footwork and as you practice your ground balls, you'll notice that sometimes you can pick the hop that you want with the ground ball. The last topic I want to cover that's fundamental to our 3 steps of fielding is what to do with a bobble. Bobbles and mistakes happen, but there's something that we can control to help us continue having an opportunity to make a play. So when I'm doing the footwork, I step to catch. And if I'm bobbling the ball on my transfer, I'm not going to step and throw and just stand here and wait until I gather and get control of the ball to throw. I'm going to continue repeating the pop step so that I'm gaining ground as the runner is gaining ground to first base so that I have every opportunity to get them out. So what this looks like is I step to catch and I'm bobbling, and then I throw. So keep repeating the pop step if you're bobbling the ball and as you're trying to regain control and get ready to throw. Thank you for watching Chapter 4 of my softball protocol. I hope you learned a lot about the fundamentals of footwork and take time to really practice this and make this your bread and butter. Stay tuned for Chapter 5 where I'll introduce the pivot. Let me know what questions I can answer for you.